You woke up one morning to find out that your Facebook account had been locked out. At first, you think maybe you got hacked, but when you check your email, you see something from Facebook informing you that unfortunately, according to the new censorship laws, the status update you posted that contained a criticism of the government was labeled as hate speech and disinformation, and so they were forced to shut down your account. That seems like a bit of a wild example, but under the new suite of censorship bills that the Liberal government wants to pass, it's very much a possible future for Canadians. And that possible future is closer than you think. Right now, the federal government has 3 bills they want to pass through Parliament, 2 of which are being voted on right now. And these would allow the government to take direct regulatory control of what you see, say, and read online. Each bill has its own targets and deeply negative consequences for the internet in Canada. So what are those bills and what do they do? The first is Bill C-11. It's called the Online Streaming Act, and its job is to control what Canadians see online. They will do this by forcing the CRTC, which regulates TV and radio, to now regulate the entire Canadian online world as well. This gives the government the power to force social media to change their algorithms to boost stories and content they want you to see and suppress what they don't want you to see. Do you want Prime Minister Trudeau, or any Prime Minister for that matter, along with a bunch of unelected bureaucrats to have the final say on what counts as appropriate content for Canadians? This bill would harm the visibility of Canadian creators and result in your feed on YouTube or Facebook or TikTok being full of content you don't care about. It would also have the effect of chilling independent news. Think of all the scandals and critical stories that could have been hidden from Canadians in the last 7 years had the government been able to manipulate algorithms to suppress them. The WE scandal, Aga Khan scandal, SNC-Lavalin, blackface, and so on. The second is Bill C-18. It's called the Online News Act. This bill's job is to funnel hundreds of millions of dollars from tech companies to a select list of government-approved media outlets. It will end up disincentivizing news outlets from being critical of the federal government and puts outlets who don't make the nice list at a serious disadvantage. So how will it do this? First, we need some background. Back in 2020, when the Trudeau government started handing out its $600+ million per year in subsidies to news outlets, it also created the Qualified Media Journalism Organization Board, made up of 5 unelected, unaccountable members who are all former journalists and academics. They have the power to decide who qualifies to be a news organization and who doesn't in this country. Fast forward to today, and Bill C-18 will force tech companies like Facebook and Google to pay news outlets anytime content gets shared online. The reason is legacy news outlets feel it's unfair that 80% of online ad revenue has all gone over to tech companies. But rather than try to change up their strategy or business model to compete, they lobbied the government for a sweetheart deal. So the government's plan is to transfer hundreds of millions of dollars to legacy media companies hand-picked by the government. So now, those same news and media groups would risk losing millions if they start being critical of the government all of a sudden. A paycheck builds loyalty and obedience. How good are you at criticizing your boss or keeping them accountable for things you find distasteful? So how could the media possibly cover and criticize the government that it's getting millions of dollars from? The end result is a further loss of a truly free press that is a pillar of democracy. Doing anything to influence what they say, or creating an environment where people are afraid to be critical, hurts us. And this bill would further reduce the separation between news and state that's already been harmed by this same government. These bills together mean that Canada's online world would turn into an intolerant, oppressive, unfriendly, and neutered space. That doesn't sound like the Canada we know and love, one that values openness, free discussion, and tolerance of opposing viewpoints. All 3 bills have received enormous backlash from academics, experts on both the left and the right, as well as human rights organizations and freelance journalists. During one hearing, Twitter's head of public safety, Michelle Austin, held nothing back. She said, quote, "People around the world have been blocked from accessing Twitter and other services in a similar manner as the one proposed by Canada by multiple authoritarian governments, China, North Korea, and Iran, for example, under the false guise of online safety, impeding people's rights to access to information online." The Prime Minister knows exactly what he's doing. He's smart enough to craft these bills, and he's smart enough to know exactly what they will do to our society. But the problem is he doesn't care. So will Canadians one day wake up to find their social media accounts frozen for posting content critical of the government? Well, Prime Minister Trudeau mercilessly booted Jody Wilson-Raybould and Jane Philpott out of his government because they stood up to him over the SNC-Lavalin scandal. Imagine what he'd do to you if he was given the chance.